The club was a fever dream, a gritty pulse in the city's underbelly where neon lights bled into the haze. Bass thumped through the concrete walls, rattling Mira's ribs like a second heartbeat. Strobe lights carved the air, slashing across sweat-drenched faces lost in the beat. Pink, violet, blue, each flash a jagged snapshot of chaos. The floor stuck to her boots, tacky with spilled liquor, and the crowd surged around her, a tangle of bodies grinding to the music's relentless throb. Graffiti clawed the walls, its colors smearing under the flickering neons, while the bar, a warped, scarred slab of wood, sagged under the weight of elbows and empty glasses. This place was alive, raw, a desperate slice of the city that didn't care who you were as long as you kept moving. Mira leaned against the bar, her laugh sharp enough to cut through the noise.
You're gonna get us in trouble,
Lena teased, her grin half hidden behind a beer bottle. Mira smirked, eyes glinting.
Girl, let him try,
She said, daring the world to take a swing. Tonight, she was magnetic, every toss of her dark brown hair, every tilt of her hips pulling eyes like a magnet. 2 weeks of stitching wounds and dodging death in the back of an ambulance had left her wired, desperate for release. Her crop top clung to her skin, sheer enough to tease, her shorts so short they were more suggestion than clothing. Sweat traced a slow line down her stomach, catching the strobe's glow, and her deep brown eyes flared as she sipped her vodka, savoring the burn. The alcohol hummed in her veins, loosening her limbs, and the dance floor called like a siren. She grabbed Lena's wrist, pulling her into the crowd, and the music swallowed them, a primal pulse that sank into their bones. Mira moved like she was born for it, hips rolling, hair whipping, her body carving arcs through the haze. Her shorts rode higher with every sway, her crop top slipping to flash skin, and she didn't care. The crowd's eyes were on her, hungry, and she fed off it, her gaze fierce, untamed. Lena spun nearby, caught in her own rhythm, and for a moment, it was just them and the beat, the world falling away. But the vodka hit hard, and Mira's bladder pinched, sharp and urgent. She wove through the dancers, searching for Lena, the club's chaos blurring her friend's shape. Bodies pressed in, slick with sweat, the bass pounding her senses into mush. She spotted Lena by the bar, wrapped around a woman, their bodies swaying slow, hands low and possessive.
Lena, bathroom, let's go,
Mira called, her voice cutting through the noise. Lena glanced over, her smile loose, eyes glassy.
I'm good, babe,
She slurred, clinging tighter to the woman, their rhythm unbroken. Mira's jaw tightened. The bathroom line was a mess of bodies, and she wasn't in the mood to wait. Clutch in hand, she pushed through the crowd and slipped out a side door into the alley. The air was cool, sharp with the stink of garbage and wet brick. Before she could catch her breath, a hand clamped over her mouth, a rag reeking of chemicals burning her lungs. Panic surged, her body exploding into motion. She clawed at the arm, nails digging deep, drawing a grunt. Her elbows slammed back, connecting with ribs, and a muffled curse cut the dark. She kicked, heels cracking against shins, her heart slamming against her chest. Her teeth sank into the hand, tasting salt and blood, but the chloroform was faster, gnawing at her edges. The alley spun, neon fracturing into shards, her limbs growing heavy. Darkness crashed over her, a cold, suffocating wave. Mira woke to nausea, her head pounding like a bruise. She was slumped in the back of a van, the air thick with oil and rot. Her wrists ached, bound tight with zip ties that bit into her skin. A man's voice growled from the driver's seat, low and alone, the words lost to the engine's rumble. Her paramedic instincts kicked in. She slowed her breathing, feigning unconsciousness, ears straining for clues. The van lurched to a stop, doors screeching open, and the scent of damp earth and pine flooded in. He dragged her out, his grip bruising, boots crunching through leaves. She glimpsed a looming stone mansion, its granite face choked with vines, windows shuttered like closed eyes. He hauled her up creaking steps into the mansion, down several halls, and dumped her onto a sagging cot in a dim room. The door's lock snapped shut, his footsteps fading down the hall. Mira's eyes snapped open, scanning the space. Cracked plaster walls, a chipped mirror, a bucket in the corner, wallpaper peeling like old skin. She curled into herself, fear icing her veins, tears burning her eyes. She'd seen bad shit on the job, car wrecks, overdoses, stabbings. But this was different. This was a cage. A thud echoed through the walls, followed by a scream, sharp, wet, final. Mira's stomach twisted, her mind flashing to the ER, arterial spray, a body bleeding out. She forced herself to breathe, her wrists twisting against the zip ties until her skin burned. The cot's rusted frame creaked under her weight, useless for breaking free. She needed something sharp, something to cut with. Her eyes darted to the mirror's jagged edge. Maybe, just maybe. Footsteps returned, slow and heavy. The lock rattled, and a man stepped in, lean, wiry, his eyes hollow, avoiding hers. He dropped a tray of bread and thin stew, the smell greasy and sour.
"Eat,"
he muttered, voice rough, like he hadn't spoken in days. Mira's glare was pure fire.
You're killing people.
She spat, the scream still ringing in her ears. His eyes flickered just for a second, then he shook his head.
"Eat or you'll weaken."
The door slammed, the lock clicking. Her mind churned, survive, think, escape. She hated him, this wiry bastard, but hate wouldn't cut zip ties. She needed a plan. Mira's wrists stung, the zip ties carving red lines into her skin as she tested the cot's rusted frame. Nothing gave. She cataloged the room. The mildew stink, a faint drip from somewhere in the walls, the lock's heavy clank like a gunshot. The tray of stew sat untouched, its greasy film turning her stomach. Another scream tore through the mansion, this one choked, gurgling. Her mind painted a grim picture, a slashed throat, blood pooling fast. Her heart raced, but she forced it steady, eyes scanning for anything useful. The mirror's crack glinted faintly. A slim chance. The lock rattled again, and Mira tensed, hands balling into fists despite the pain. The door swung open and the air shifted, heavy, like the room was holding its breath. This wasn't the wiry man. This guy was a beast, broad shoulders stretching a stained flannel shirt, scars clawing his face, one eye milky white, the other a piercing amber that pinned her like a blade. His hair was a wild mess, black streaked with silver, and his hands, massive, knuckles cracked, looked like they could crush her skull.
"Put it down,"
he growled, his voice rough as gravel, eyes flicking to the metal bowl as she squatted, snatching it with her bound hands. Mira's grip tightened, her brown eyes blazing.
Or what?
She shot back, her voice sharp, daring.
You'll carve me up like the others?
She leaned forward, chin up, refusing to shrink. His scarred lip twitched, almost a sneer.
"You don't know shit,"
he said, stepping closer, his boots grinding dust into the stone. He towered over her, close enough that she could smell the whiskey on his breath, see the pulse in his thick neck. Her eyes flicked to his hands. No knife, no gun, just those fists. She held the bowl higher, thighs tensing, ready to swing. She hissed, her voice low, taunting.
I've patched up worse than you. You don't scare me.
A lie. Her gut churned with fear, but she'd be damned if she showed it. He moved fast, snatching the bowl and placed it back on the tray with a clang. His other hand slammed her back against the cot, pinning her chest, his weight stealing her breath. His scarred face loomed, amber eye glinting with something cold, cruel.
"You're not scared,"
he said, his voice a low snarl.
"You will be."
The words hit like a blade, sharp and certain. Mira's lips curled into a defiant smile, her hips shifting just enough to graze him, a calculated tease. She purred, voice steady despite her pounding heart.
I've seen monsters. You're nothing new.
His grip tightened, then shifted to her wrists. His fingers dug in, nails biting her skin, and with a brutal yank, he snapped the zip ties. Pain flared, blood beading where the plastic had cut, but she didn't flinch, her eyes locked on his.
"Eat the fucking stew,"
he snarled, shoving off her and storming out. The lock snapped shut, the sound echoing like a slammed coffin. Mira's breath came in ragged bursts, her skin tingling where his hands had been. Two captors, the wiry one, nervous and weak, and this beast, all power and menace, and those screams. Someone else was here, dying. Mira sat on the cot, wrists raw and bleeding, the pain a dull pulse she pushed to the back of her mind. The stew's stench lingered, but she wouldn't touch it, not for anything. The room was a tomb, cracked walls, chipped mirror, the bucket stink curling her nose. Another scream echoed, fainter, like a fading heartbeat, and her instincts kicked into overdrive. Someone was bleeding out, and she was trapped, useless. Her hands were free now, the zip ties gone, snapped by the beast's brutal yank. Blood crusted where the plastic had cut, but the freedom in her fingers was a spark of hope. She flexed them, wincing, her mind slicing through panic. Assess, act, survive. Her crop top clung to her sweat-damp skin, the denim shorts riding high, a reminder of the club's chaos. Hours ago, a lifetime ago. The mirror's jagged crack glinted in the dim light, its edge a promise of a weapon. She slid off the cot, bare feet hitting cold stone, and crouched by the mirror, fingers probing the rusted frame. A shard could cut a throat or pry a lock, if she could get it loose. Another scream tore through the mansion, raw and gurgling, conjuring images of a slashed artery, blood pooling fast. Mira's stomach twisted, her mind flashing to ambulance runs. Patients slipping away, her hands slick with their blood. She wasn't helpless then, and she refused to be now. Her fingers gripped the mirror's frame, nails scraping metal, and she pulled hard. The screws groaned but held, unyielding. She hissed a curse, her heart pounding, and glanced at the door. Its rusted lock was heavy, old, maybe brittle enough to break with the right leverage. She paced, her feet scuffing the gritty floor, the crop top's hem brushing her ribs. The bucket stench, piss, and decay made her gag, and she shoved it with her heel, the clang echoing too loud. She froze, breath held, listening for the beast's heavy boots or the wiry man's shuffle. Only a steady drip-drip answered, leaking from the walls like a dying pulse. Her eyes scanned again, the cot's rusted frame, too big to use, the tray with its greasy stew, the metal bowl too light to be a weapon. The mirror was her only chance. She knelt again, fingers tracing the crack, picturing a shard in her hand, sharp enough to draw blood. The screams were fading, each one weaker, clawing at her chest. She was a paramedic. She saved lives, didn't sit by while they bled out. Rage burned, hot and jagged, her fingers shaking as she tugged at the mirror again. One hard pull might free a piece, but the noise could summon the beast. The lock clanked and Mira shot to her feet, muscles coiled. The wiry man slipped in, his greasy hair plastered to his skull, eyes darting like a cornered animal. He clutched a bundle of gray fabric that reeked of mold and tossed it at her feet.
Get up.
He muttered, voice barely audible.
Put it on.
Mira kicked the bundle, her lips curling.
The fuck is this?
She snapped, her voice sharp enough to make him flinch. Her crop top was sweat-soaked, her shorts barely there, and she leaned forward, letting her curves catch his nervous glance. If he was weak, she'd use it.
Your uniform,
he said, swallowing hard.
Master says you work, clean, serve whatever he wants.
Her laugh was bitter, cutting.
Serve? You think I'm some bitch you can dress up for your master?
She moved closer, her hips swaying just enough to rattle him.
Tell him to go fuck himself!
Her brown eyes burned, daring him to push back. His hand tightened on a rusted key, his voice dropping to a hiss.
You don't obey, you're dead, like the others.
His eyes flicked to the door, fear flashing across his face. Mira's stomach twisted, the beast's amber eye flashing in her mind. She bent, picking up the uniform, a gray, threadbare dress that smelled like a damp basement. Her nose wrinkled, but she held it up, letting it brush her thighs, her gaze never leaving his.
Fine,
She said, her voice dripping with mockery.
but I'm not your doll.
She turned, peeling off her top slowly, her hair falling over bare shoulders. She felt his eyes, nervous and hungry, and smirked. Let him choke on it. The dress was shapeless, swallowing her frame, but she knotted the waist, reclaiming her shape. She spun, hands on hips.
Happy?
She taunted, her voice sharp. He didn't answer, just pointed to the door, his hand shaking.
Follow. Master says you start tonight.
Start what?
She snapped, stepping even closer, her bare feet cold on the stone. He flinched, muttering,
Cleaning, kitchen, whatever he wants.
His voice cracked, barely a whisper.
Don't fuck this up.
The hallway was a shadow-filled maze, its walls seeming to pulse. Another scream echoed, faint but raw, clawing at her gut. Mira's heart pounded, but she walked, the dress chafing her skin, her rage a burning coal in her chest. She'd play their game, for now. But every step was a promise. She'd outsmart them, escape, and burn this fucking place to ash. The beast stood in the mansion's gut, a surgical chamber where the air carried a sharp antiseptic bite undercut by blood's iron tang. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a cold, steady glow over a steel table at the center, its surface clean but scarred from use. A young man's body lay sprawled there, skin pale as death, his chest a torn mess of jagged cuts. The butcher, a short, thick-set man in a blood-flecked surgical gown, hunched over the corpse, his scalpel scraping ribs with a sickening grind. The beast's amber eye burned, his scarred lip curling into a sneer that could draw blood.
You're fucking it up.
He growled, voice rough as broken glass, each word a sharp jab. The butcher froze, scalpel stuck in flesh, his watery eyes flicking up through a sweat-streaked visor.
Master, I'm trying.
He stammered, voice thin and cracked. The beast's massive hand shot out, snatching the scalpel with a jerk, pulling it free with a wet pop, blood dripping onto the table.
Trying's for the weak.
He snarled, shoving the man back. The butcher stumbled, gown flapping, his breath hitching. The beast loomed, his flannel stretched tight over broad shoulders, amber eye pinning the body like a wolf on a kill. His knuckles, scarred and split, twitched with barely checked rage. He'd carved too many here to stomach this hack's mess. He tossed the scalpel into a metal tray with a clatter and grabbed a fresh one from a rack, its blade catching the light like a razor's edge.
Watch.
He hissed, voice a low, cold threat. He leaned over the body, the young man's dead eyes staring at nothing. His hand moved with a surgeon's precision, the scalpel extending the Y-shaped incision across the chest, parting flesh cleanly. Blood oozed, dark and thick, pooling under the table's edge. His scarred fingers peeled back the skin and muscle flaps with steady pulls, exposing the sternum and ribs.
Clean cuts. Anything less is a waste.
He growled, eyes locked on the corpse, ignoring the butcher. He set the scalpel aside and grabbed rib shears from the rack, positioning them at the cartilage. With firm squeezes, the cartilage snapped, one by one along the junctions. He lifted the sternal plate, the sternum and attached ribs, free in one piece, setting it aside with a dull thud. The cavity lay open, revealing the heart's still mass. A quick nick to a vessel with the scalpel sent blood seeping out, draining slowly. His amber eye stayed hard, unflinching, as he probed the heart's chambers, each movement deliberate, exact.
Too much force, you ruin it.
He said, voice a low snarl, thick with disgust.
Too little. You're wasting my time.
The butcher nodded, shaking his gown, sticking to his sweaty bulk. The beast's lip twitched, a cruel, fleeting smirk. Weakness was a rope, and this man was knotted tight. His mind flicked to Mira, her brown eyes blazing, her voice a taunt that cut deep.
You don't scare me.
She'd spat, her crop top clinging to her, defiance like a live wire. Let her scrub the mansion's filth, choke on it. Her fire was a challenge, a blade he'd dull in time. Break her, she'd bleed here, Hold fast, he'd savor crushing her will. He stepped back, shears and scalpel set aside. The chest carved open, organs exposed like a grim map. He shoved the tools toward the butcher's trembling hands.
Fuck it up again. You're next.
He growled, his eye boring into the man's skull. The butcher muttered,
Of course, Master.
The beast turned and climbed the spiral staircase, the mansion creaking around him. A faint scream echoed from below, and Mira's face flashed in his mind. Her sharp tongue, her thick spine. She wasn't like the others, weak and weeping. She was a storm, a cloud that thundered with her defiance, and he'd tear her apart and disintegrate her. Mira trailed the skinny man through the mansion's shadowed halls, her bare feet smacking cold stone, each step a dull sting that grounded her. The gray dress scratched at her thighs like a punishment, its moldy stench clinging to her skin. Grimy walls loomed, streaked with mold that seemed to crawl in the flickering light, the mansion's weight pressing down, its groans echoing like a pulse in a crypt. The skinny man shuffled ahead, his rusted key dangling from bony fingers, shoulders hunched, as if he felt the beast's amber eye boring through the dark. A scream tore through the silence, raw and jagged, from somewhere deep below. Mira's stomach knotted, her mind slicing through the sound. Torn flesh, maybe a gut wound bleeding slow and brutal. Her eyes blazed, rage sparking hot in her veins. She'd play their game, wear their rags, but she'd carve this place open and leave it bleeding. Her boots from the club were gone, stripped somewhere in the haze of her capture, leaving her feet exposed to the stone's chill. Each step was a map. She noted every warped door, every chipped sconce flickering weak light, every crack in the walls. The hallway twisted, a maze of decay, the air heavy with blood's coppery edge. The skinny man's key swung like a taunt, his nervous shuffle betraying his fear. He was a weak link, breakable, and she'd use it. Another scream ripped through, fainter but sharp, a blade in her gut. Her mind flashed to the ER, a stab wound, intestines spilling, seconds ticking down. She clenched her fists, nails biting her palms, her body itching to move, to save someone. But the dress, the locked doors, the beast, they caged her. For now. She studied the skinny man's back, his greasy hair plastered to his skull, his steps faltering as if he dreaded what lay ahead.
Where are we going exactly?
She snapped, her voice low, cutting through the hall's hum. He flinched, not turning, his key clinking against his thigh.
Kitchen master says you clean.
He muttered. Mira's lips curled, a bitter smirk. Clean their filth. Serve their rules. She'd do it. But every scrub was a plan, every moment a step toward breaking free. Her eyes darted to a rusted hinge on a side door, a loose nail glinting faintly. A weapon, maybe, if she could pry it loose. The scream faded, a dying echo, and her heart pounded. Someone was bleeding out, and she was stuck here, leashed by this coward and his master. She'd gut them both before this was over. The skinny man shoved open a heavy wooden door, its surface warped and stained with decades of filth, revealing a kitchen that reeked of decay. The air pulsed with the stench of rancid fat and spoiled food. A massive table dominated the center, its wood scarred and crusted with grease. Moldy bread and rotting vegetables lay scattered, remnants of meals long abandoned. Pots blackened with residue hung on a rusted rack, and a barrel in the corner brimmed with sludgy gray liquid, its fermented reek gagging her. Mira's nose wrinkled, her gut churning as she cataloged the scene. Grease pooled in thick patches, flies buzzing over shriveled potatoes, the faint hum of fluorescent lights flickering above.
Clean it.
The skinny man muttered, voice barely a rasp, eyes fixed on the floor. He thrust a rag and a bucket of gray water at her, the handle cold against her raw wrists.
Master wants it spotless. Don't stop till it's done.
He backed toward the door, boots scuffing through grime, and hissed,
Good luck.
just before slamming it shut. The lock clanked, leaving Mira alone in the stinking chamber. Her lips curled into a sneer, fingers crushing the rag until her knuckles whitened.
Spotless, my ass.
She hissed, voice low, venomous. She knelt by the table, the stone floor sticky under her knees, and dipped the rag into the bucket, its stench wrenching her gut. She scrubbed a grease stain, the rag soaking up rancid fat, smearing more than cleaning. Her hips shifted as she worked, the gray dress riding up, her curves straining the fabric. If the beast or his lackey watched, she'd use every glance. Let them think her tamed. The table's surface told a story of decay. Knife scratches, oil burns, and a faint carving. A strange symbol that gnawed at her mind. It was a symmetrical figure, etched with deliberate lines. Two rounded protrusions at the top, like ears sticking up, connected to a hexagonal shape below that resembled a head, with a fused ring forming the body. On the left side, a short extension like an arm with a small knob at the end, and on the right, a similar arm ending in a circle. At the bottom center, a central point with a line extending down, giving it a balanced, almost cute stance. The whole thing looked like a bunny, stylized and simplistic, as if someone had carved a child's toy into the wood. A rabbit sitting upright, ears perked, body rounded, arms outstretched, its meaning elusive but heavy, like a brand in bone. Her paramedic's instincts mapped the filth, grease in grooves, mold along cracks, a sticky film where hands had gripped. No blood, no bodies, but the screams from deeper in the mansion clawed at her. Her stomach lurched, but her mind stayed cold, clinical. She stood, breath ragged, gripping the rag tighter, her brown eyes blazing defiance. The beast thought he could chain her to this hell, make her scrub his filth while screams echoed from shadowed rooms. Her memory flashed to his amber eye, his scarred sneer, the raw power pinning her to the cot. Let him watch her, let him try to break her. She'd play as maid, wear his rags, but every stain she scrubbed sharpened her rage. She'd find his weaknesses, the skinny man's, this whole damned mansion's. And when she did, she'd carve her way out, leave the beast bleeding, and burn this fucking place to ash. The door groaned open and the air thickened. The beast filled the frame, his flannel stained darker now, crimson flecks spattered across his chest, his amber eye burning through the harsh fluorescent light. His scarred lip twitched, a cruel curl that spoke of blood just spilled. His hands flexed, knuckles cracked and raw, as if they'd torn through flesh moments before. Mira's breath caught, but her chin tilted high, her brown eyes locking with his. A silent dare woven into their smoldering depths. The room seemed to shrink, the walls pulsing with his presence.
You're slow.
He growled, his voice low, each syllable dripping with menace. He stepped closer, boots grinding grime into stone, his shadow swallowing her, and growled again.
This place should gleam by now.
His amber eye read her, lingering on the gray dress tied tight around her hips, her curves a defiant taunt against the shapeless rags. Mira's lips curled, a slow, sultry smirk. Her voice a velvet barb as she leaned forward, letting the dress ride higher.
Takes time to polish a shithole, or don't you know what clean looks like, beast?
She purred, her words sharp enough to cut, her eyes blazing with fire that refused to bend. His sneer deepened, a flash of teeth like a predator bearing fangs, his amber eye cold and piercing. He closed the distance, his heat pressing against her skin.
You talk big, but you're the one scrubbing the shit,
he said, voice a low snarl. Each word a stone dropped into still water, rippling with threat. His hand shot out, not to strike, but to seize the rag from her grip, his fingers brushing her raw wrists, sending a jolt through her veins. He held the rag up, dripping filth, and tossed it to the floor with a wet slap.
Useless.
He hissed, his gaze never leaving hers, a challenge mirrored in the amber fire of his eye. Mira's heart pounded, her thighs tensing as she held her ground, her body a taut bowstring, ready to snap.
Useless! I've stitched men back together while you play butcher in your dungeon.
Her hips shifted, a subtle roll that drew his eye, her brown hair spilling over one shoulder like a cascade of dark silk.
You think this dress makes me your bitch? Try me.
Her words were a dare, each syllable dripping with venom, her eyes burning into his, searching for the crack in his armor. His scarred lip twitched, and for a moment the air crackled, their wills clashing like flint on steel, sparks of hate flaring between them. He leaned closer, his breath hot against her cheek, his amber eye a storm of cruelty.
You're alive because I allow it. Push me, and I'll carve that fire from your bones.
He growled, his voice a low thrum that sank into her bones. Each word a chain he tried to wrap around her. His hand hovered near her throat, fingers flexing, but he didn't touch her, as if her defiance held him at bay, a beast circling a flame. Mira's smile was a blade, sharp and unyielding, her brown eyes glinting with a fire that matched his own. She whispered, her voice a sultry taunt, lips brushing close enough to graze his ear.
Carve me, but you'll bleed first.
His hand dropped, a low growl rumbling in his chest, his amber eye narrowing as if her words had struck deeper than he'd admit. He stepped back, his boots heavy on the stone, and jerked his head toward the table.
Clean it right, or I'll drag you to the chamber myself.
He snarled, his voice thick with restrained fury. He turned, his flannel taut across his shoulders, bloodstains catching the flickering light as he stormed to the door. The lock slammed shut, its clank echoing like a gavel. Mira stood frozen, breath coming in sharp bursts. The kitchen closed in, the fluorescent hum buzzing like a swarm in her ears, the stench of grease and rot pressing heavier now, as if the beast had sucked the air out with him. Her skin tingled where his fingers had brushed her wrist, a ghost touch that burned. Threat or something twisted she couldn't tell. She leaned against the table, knees weak for a moment, but her brown eyes hardened, defiance surging back like a tide. The kitchen's silence was thick, broken only by the drip from a faucet, each drop a countdown. She'd pushed him, and he'd backed off. The thrill of it mixed with dread. A high-wire act in this hell. The rage built, hot and steady, a fire she fanned with every breath. She'd get out. She'd make him pay. She scrubbed harder, the rag tearing through grease. Her movements deliberate, eyes darting to the rusted hinges, the cracked wall, potential weaknesses. The symbol on the table caught her again. That rabbit-like figure, stylized and simplistic, ears perked as if listening to her thoughts. What did it mean? A code, a warning. The mansion's secrets whispered through it, but she pushed the thought down. Hours blurred, her arms aching, the bucket water now a murky soup. The screams faded to whimpers, then silence, heavy and ominous, the mansion groaning like a living thing. Was the victim dead? The uncertainty gnawed, her pulse a steady drum. The door rattled, jolting her. The skinny man shuffled in, eyes hollow, hands twitching, boots leaving tracks in the dust she'd swept.
Time's up,
He muttered, voice a bare whisper, gaze flicking nervously to the hall. He gestured her out, his rusted key swinging like a lure. Mira set the broom aside, her brown eyes slicing through him, but she followed, bare feet silent on the stone. The hall swallowed them, shadows lengthening under flickering lights, the air thicker with blood's coppery tang. Her pulse quickened, senses on edge, the skinny man's uneven shuffle, the distant creak, the faint draft. They rounded a corner, the hall widening into a cavernous atrium, balcony overhead a twisted railing of rust. Mira glanced up, heart skipping. There he was, the beast, leaning on the rail, his massive frame silhouetted, amber eye burning down at her like a predator from on high. She tilted her chin, meeting his gaze, a silent fuck you in her stare, defiance crackling. But then, as he shifted slightly, she saw her, just behind him, hidden before by his bulk. A woman, beautiful and ethereal, fire-red hair cascading like flames, her gorgeous crimson-red dress hugging her form, elegant and out of place in this decay. Their eyes met instantly, the woman's gaze piercing, cold as a blade, and Mira's stomach lurched, nausea surging like a wave. Who was she? The woman's lips curved in a knowing smile, and Mira's skin crawled, a chill racing down her spine. The skinny man hurried on, oblivious, his shuffle faster. They reached her cell, the dim room waiting like a tomb. As he unlocked the door, Mira's voice cut through, low and probing.
Why do you let that murderer control you?
He stopped, key pulling out, fingers tightening as he pushed the door open. His eyes snapped to hers, hollow no more, filled with fierce anger, protective like a dog guarding its master.
That boy would never...
He spat, voice cracking but sharp, shoulders squaring.
Don't you say that again.
His face twisted, loyalty and fear clashing. Before she could retort, he shoved her hard, thin arms, surprising with strength. Mira stumbled in, stone cold against her bare feet. The door slammed, lock clanking shut. Dimness swallowed her, the echo ringing. The beast's glare, the woman's cold gaze, the skinny man's outburst. It all hung, a noose tightening. Boy, what did he mean he'd never? And the woman. She opened her mouth, letting her thoughts expel from her lips.
Who the fuck are you?
A rattling thunder pierced the silence, and Mira's fists clenched, rage a heartbeat in the dark. The beast watched from the balcony, his amber eye fixed on Mira as she moved below, her gray dress clinging to her like a second skin, her bare feet silent on the stone. The skinny man shuffled ahead, a pathetic shadow, but she walked with her chin high, her brown hair catching the faint light, defiance in every step. His lip twitched, a mix of amusement and something sharper, hunger maybe, or annoyance. She glanced up, their eyes locking, her stare a silent challenge, a fuck you that hit like a spark. He held it, unblinking, until hers flicked from his, her hips swaying just enough to linger in his mind as she passed out of sight. He turned, the balcony's rusted rail creaking under his weight, and met the woman's gaze. Her fire-red hair cascading like blood in the dim light, her crimson dress hugging curves that seemed too perfect for this rotting place.
She's beautiful,
she said, her voice a silky purr, lips curving in a knowing smile that didn't reach her eyes. The beast ignored her, pushing through the door behind him, the wood groaning as he entered the hall. The air was cooler here, laced with the mansion's decay, but he kept walking, boots thudding on the stone, his flannel pulling tight across his broad shoulders. She followed, her steps light, almost soundless, a phantom in his wake. He could feel her presence, that electric pull, but he didn't slow.
Hey, you can't just ignore me,
she called, her voice echoing off the walls, a mix of tease and edge. He kept going, the hall stretching ahead, shadowed sconces flickering like dying flames.
Arthaniel!
She snapped, sharper now, her heels clicking faster as she caught up. He stopped, turning slowly, his white clouded eyes sightless, but his amber one piercing, locking on hers. Her crimson dress swishing, her beauty a weapon in this grim place. Pale skin, full lips, eyes that gleamed with something ancient and hungry. She walked right up, sliding her hand down his chest, fingers tracing the lines on his flannel. Then the back of her hand up to his neck, long fingernails prickling his skin, raising goosebumps. The touch was electric, a spark that made his heart stutter, but he held still, jaw tight.
What's wrong, sweetie?
She murmured, her voice a velvet caress, eyes searching his.
You in a bad mood.
I said no, Lana.
He snarled, low and guttural, turning away, and pushed through the big door at the hall's end. The room beyond dim and opulent, a bed dominating the far wall, its sheets rumpled like forgotten secrets. She slipped past him fast as light, a blur that made the air shimmer. grabbing his shirt at the chest. She leaned in, lips brushing his in a tease that sent heat racing through him, then pulled him by the shirt, backing toward the bed. With a quick twist, she spun him around, pushing him down. He went, sitting hard, catching himself with hands on the mattress, the springs creaking under his weight. She climbed on top, straddling him like he was hers to ride, her red dress hiking up her thighs, her weight pressing him back. She looked down, eyes locking with his, fire-red hair falling like a curtain.
Just one bite.
She whispered, voice husky, pleading.
I just need one.
He stared back, heart pounding now, the room's shadows closing in.
You always say that.
He growled, but his voice lacked bite, betrayal in the way his body tensed under her. She pouted, full lips curving down, fingers moving to the scars on his face. 3 almost perfect lines carved diagonally from his white, sightless eye across his mouth to his jaw. She traced them, slow and intimate, making him twitch.
You know you want it too.
She murmured, her touch turning gentle, then insistent. He held her gaze, his pulse thundering in his ears. She slid her hand to his neck, fingers easing his collar aside, opening her mouth, licking her lips with a slow, deliberate swipe. He caved, angling his neck toward her, heart racing, the anticipation a knife's edge. She leaned in, breath hot on his skin, mouth opening wider, fangs glinting in the low light as she went for the bite. Arthaniel lay sprawled on the bed, heart racing, the adrenaline still surging through his veins like a storm that wouldn't break, the room's air thick with the metallic tang of blood and her scent, sweet, intoxicating like roses rotting in the sun. His neck throbbed where her fangs had sunk in, a dull ache that pulsed with every beat, the wound already sealing, but the memory burned hot. She'd taken her fill, one bite turning to more, her body a phantom blaze against his. But now the high faded, leaving him hollow, the rush ebbing into something darker. Regret, or the edge of addiction he couldn't admit. She rolled off him, graceful as smoke, her fire-red hair spilling over the pillows like spilled blood, her pale skin glowing in the dim light. She licked her lips, eyes gleaming with satisfaction, fangs retracted, but the hunger still there, a glint in her gaze.
See?
She murmured, voice a velvet purr, tracing a fingernail along his scarred jaw.
Wasn't that what you needed?
Arthaniel pushed her hand away, sitting up slowly, muscles tense, the bed creaking under his weight. His clothes lay discarded on the floor, bloodstains darkening the fabric.
You always say that too.
He growled, voice rough, edged with the rawness of what they'd done. He swung his legs over the side, feet hitting the floor with a thud that echoed in the room. The air felt heavier now, the mansion's groans filtering through the walls like distant thunder. She laughed, a low melody that sent a shiver down his spine, propping herself on an elbow.
And you give in every time. That's what makes this fun.
Her eyes narrowed, that knowing smile playing on her lips, as if she saw right through him, the boy he'd been, the monster he'd become. She sat up and reached for him again, fingers brushing his arm.
Or is it the girl? She's got you twisted up, hasn't she? Beautiful, defiant. I saw the way you looked at her from the balcony.
He snarled, standing abrupt, the room spinning for a second from the blood loss.
She's nothing but a vessel,
He muttered, but the words tasted like a lie. Mira's stare from below, that silent "fuck you," had hit harder than he'd admit. Her fire was different, human, raw, not like this eternal game. The woman's presence pressed, her beauty a trap, her touch a venom he craved and hated. He headed for the bathroom, each step a fight to steady himself.
Don't walk away.
She called, voice turning sharp, a hint of desperation under the tease, and slipped off the bed, fast as a shadow. He stopped at the threshold, hand on the knob, heart still thundering.
Enough, Lana.
He growled, but his voice wavered, the adrenaline crash, leaving him exposed. She approached. Slow now.
One more bite.
She teased, lips close, breath cool on the back of his neck. But he shoved the door open, stepping into the room, and with a quick nudge, shut it behind him. Lana's laugh followed, echoing like a promise or a threat. The thunder rolled again, louder, shaking the mansion's foundations, a storm brewing outside that mirrored the one in Mira's chest. Mira backed against the wall, the rough stones scraping her shoulders through the gray dress, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The cell felt smaller, the air denser, as if the walls were breathing, watching. Her mind raced, piecing the fragments. The beast's amber eye burning from the balcony, that silent standoff, her defiant stare clashing with his like sparks on flint. Then the shift, his body moving just enough to reveal her, the woman, with fire-red hair cascading like flames in the dim light, her crimson dress hugging a figure that was too perfect, too out of place in this rotting hell. Their eyes had locked, and nausea had hit Mira like a punch. A wave of sickness that made her stomach churn even now, bile rising in her throat. Who was she? Not a prisoner. The way she stood close, hidden but commanding, her smile knowing, cold as a blade slicing through flesh. An accomplice? A lover? The thought twisted Mira's gut, her skin crawling with the memory. The woman's gaze had been piercing, pulling at something deep, leaving her dizzy, off balance. Mira slid down the wall, knees to her chest, the gray dress bunching, her bare feet numb from the cold. Her pulse thundered in her ears, matching the storm, heart pounding like it would burst. The skinny man's words echoed. Boy? The beast was no boy. He was a monster, raw power and malice. But the skinny man's anger had been real, protective, like family or debt. And the woman, her presence up there, made the mansion feel alive with more threats. Shadows hiding shadows. Was she the source of the screams, or something worse? A crack of thunder rattled the door, and Mira jumped, fists clenching tighter, nails digging into palms. The storm raged outside, wind howling through cracks, rain lashing the walls like whips. Her breath hitched, the nausea surging again, mixing with fear. No, not fear. Rage. She'd pushed the beast, spat in his face earlier, and he'd laughed. But now this. The woman's cold smile lingered, a phantom in her mind, making her feel exposed, seen in a way that chilled her bones. What if they were coming for her? The lock rattling not from thunder, but footsteps. Mira's heart raced faster, a frantic beat, the cell's dimness pressing in. Her fists trembled, rage, a heartbeat in the dark, suspense coiling like a spring, ready to snap. She'd fight, she'd survive, but the night felt endless. The mansion's secrets closing in, the storm outside a roar that drowned her thoughts, leaving only the pounding of her heart and the whisper of dread. Mira, huddled against the wall, the storm's roar fading to a steady patter of rain, each drop a mocking tick. The nausea lingered, a sour knot in her gut from the woman's piercing gaze, that cold smile like a blade in the dark. The light overhead flickered sporadically, casting jagged shadows that danced across the cell, turning the sagging cot into a lurking shape, the cracked mirror a glinting eye. Her heart still raced, a frantic beat echoing the thunder's retreat, her breath shallow as she strained to listen past the wind's howl. The skinny man's words looped in her mind, a riddle that didn't fit, making the mansion feel like a web, strands pulling tighter. Mira shook it off, fists clenching, nails biting skin. The silence pressed now, heavier than the storm, broken only by the drip-drip from the leak in the wall. Then a soft scrape at the door, nails on metal, not thunder. Mira's breath caught, her body tensing like a spring. The lock rattled faintly, and she scrambled to her feet, back to the wall, eyes fixed on the door. Her pulse thundered in her ears, loud as the storm, suspense coiling in her chest, a vice squeezing tighter. The door creaked open, slow as a predator's stalk. A figure slipped through, graceful, ethereal. The woman, her fire-red hair glowing like embers in the low light, her crimson dress whispering against the stone. Lana closed the door softly, the lock clicking with a gentleness that felt wrong, like a trap snapping shut. She turned, her beautiful face softening into a smile, those piercing depths glinting in the flickering light.
Oh, you poor thing.
She murmured, voice of velvet caress, stepping closer with hands outstretched, palms up like an offering.
You look exhausted. That dress, it's filthy. And you, so strong, scrubbing away in this awful place.
Her tone dripped sympathy, sweet as honey, but Mira's skin crawled, heart pounding harder, the air thickening with unspoken threat. Mira pressed against the wall, suspicion a blade in her gut, but desperation clawed at her, an even deeper stab.
Who are you?
She demanded, voice low, edged with venom, but her eyes flicked to Lana's clean, elegant form, envy twisting with wariness. Lana's smile widened, genuine seeming, her red hair catching the light like fire.
A friend, sweetie. Call me Lana. I've seen how he treats you. Arthaniel. It's not right. Come with me. I can get you a shower, hot water, fresh clothes. Something comfortable, not this rag.
She gestured to Mira's dress, her voice soothing, like a lullaby hiding a knife.
You deserve better. Let me help.
Mira's heart raced, suspense building like the storm's return, thunder rumbling distant. She saw through it. The woman's too perfect kindness, the way her eyes gleamed hungry, not helpful. A trap, obvious, but the promise of clean skin, of washing away the mansion's filth tugged hard.
Why would you want to help me?
She asked, voice steady but pulse hammering, stepping forward despite the nausea churning. Lana's hand extended, cool and inviting.
Because I know what it's like to be trapped.
Her words hung, suspense thick, the cell's shadows seeming to lean in. Mira hesitated, heart pounding, but Lana's eyes seemed to pull at her.
Trust me, you're going to love me.
Lana purred, and just like that, she took the hand, the touch sending a chill up her arm. Lana led her out, the door creaking open, the hall beyond dark and waiting. Thunder cracked, lightning flashing, illuminating Lana's smile. Too sharp, too knowing. Mira's gut twisted, suspense coiling tighter, the mansion's secrets closing in. What was waiting in the dark? The beast's name, Arthaniel, rung like a bell. Lana led Mira through the dim halls, her steps silent and graceful, like a shadow gliding over stone. They climbed a half-flight of stairs that creaked under their weight, the air shifting from rot to polished wood and faint dust. The hall above stretched long and grand, untouched by the mansion's decay. High ceilings arched with intricate moldings, doors lining both sides, carved with elegant patterns that spoke of lost opulence. Mira's eyes flicked to the massive double doors at the hall's end, ornate and gilded, gleaming like a secret in the shadows.
What's behind those?
She asked, voice low and testing, her pulse quickening. Lana paused, her fire-red hair catching the glow like embers, her smile faltering just a flicker before hardening into something edged.
We can never go there,
she said, tone light but laced with warning, her eyes not softening.
Some places are locked for a reason.
She turned the knob on a nearer door, ushering Mira inside, the air thick with unspoken threats. The room beyond was magnificent, a relic of faded grandeur. A small sitting area with velvet chairs huddled by a fireplace, leading to a master bed piled with silk sheets and rich linens, its canopy shadowing the space like a throne. A walk-through closet beckoned beyond, opening to a bathroom of veined marble and gold fixtures, the glass shower stall gleaming invitingly.
Go ahead.
Lana said, voice soft as silk over steel.
Take your time. I'll be back with a towel and something clean to wear.
Her kindness felt like honey over a trap, her gaze lingering too long. She slipped out, the door clicking shut with finality, leaving Mira alone in the opulence, nausea stirring. Could this be her way out? Doubtful, but she'd never know if she didn't take the chance.